Muncie, Indiana has been called the most studied city of its size in America. It has long served as a bellwether, a quintessential American small city. The history is important and well documented, but what is it like to move here in the 21st century? Join me, Jonathan Balmer, a new Munsonian, as I interview the people around town who make Muncie truly unique. Welcome to Meeting Muncie. Thank you for joining me. I am here with Jeff Robinson, the current president of the City Council. Thank you for joining me today, Jeff.
It's my pleasure, Jonathan. Thank you for having me.
I always want to ask people, whenever they come onto the show, how exactly they became a Munsonian from their early years to today, when their paths crossed with Muncie. And I understand that you were born and grew up here, so that story starts pretty early for you.
It does. It starts way back in 1978 at IU Ball Memorial Hospital of the time. Born and raised here.
Can you tell me about what it was like growing up in Muncie and being a Munsonian for your entire life?
Yeah, I'll tell you, growing up here, it was a great community to grow up in. I was fortunate that I lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of kids around my age, so had spent most of my days from the time, at least over summer break when school was not in session, spent most of my days from the time I woke up until the time I went to sleep out running around with friends and just running around the neighborhoods, having a great time, flashlight tag, all of the things from the 80s that kids were wanting to do. So it was just a great community as a child.
And you stayed here for Ball State. What made you want to stay in the community also for your higher education? Because a lot of people I talk to, their story with Muncie begins at Ball State.
Correct, yeah. Well, I was a non-traditional student. I didn't start college until I was 23 years old. And, I admittedly was not very good in high school. Just immaturity, whatever you want to call it, just was not a good student in high school. And it really put me at a disadvantage when you're talking about, going to college, what college you're going to go to. And if not for the help of one man in particular, I probably wouldn't have gone to Ball State at all. It was an easy decision for me to stay close to home, but it was also a necessary decision for me to make with the help that I received to get into Ball State University. Since
you're on the city council, you're involved with politics, you're also involved in various initiatives and have worked in town. But I want to know, outside of your work, what are your passions, the things that you're really interested in doing? The things you do to unwind or just as a hobby?
It's funny. My hobby is really driving in anything to do with motorsports or anything with an engine in it. I unwind by taking a drive, listening to music, just really, digesting the day and kind of putting the day behind me and preparing for the next. I have a classic car. I have a 1965 Mustang. It was actually my first car. My dad and I restored it together. It was my 13th birthday present. And still have it. So on nice days, I enjoy getting in the Mustang and tooling around town. I also have a motorcycle. I like to ride my motorcycle as well on nice days. So for me, it's about getting out and seeing Delaware County, seeing the county surrounding, and just unwinding and trying to relax.
Was the car that you got for your 13th birthday, was it ready when fully restored by your 16th birthday, if you got your license then?
We were 3 months behind, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure I drove my dad insane because every day is, how much longer do you think? How much longer do you think? But it was ready pretty close to when I finally got my driver's license when I was 16. Back then, it was 16 years old, 1 month and 1 day before you could get your driver's license in Indiana. And boy, I was ready on that day. It was a Saturday, and for the first time as a teenager, waking up at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday so I could get my dad to take me to the license branch and finally get that driver's license.
You were definitely eager to get
Yes.
your license, not dragging your feet at all on that one.
No.
Let's imagine that someone who's lived here your entire life, you have a friend who somehow, I don't know how, has never been to Muncie, and they're visiting and you're their guide for the day. Where are you taking them, and what are you doing?
Oh, wow. There's so many answers, so many things you could do. And I actually had this a few weeks ago. A friend of mine who lives in Indianapolis, on the west side of Indianapolis, had never been to Muncie. So I kept telling her, you've got to come and see it. You've got to come and see it. So when she came, we started the evening and went to the Guardian Brewing Company and had some pizza and drank a beer and I kind of gave her the history of Muncie and really, downtown, just kind of gave a driving tour of the city. Again, there's so many things to do. It would take days for someone to see everything that we have here to offer. If it's a nice day, I'd be taking a walk on the Greenway, a walk around the grounds at Minnetrista. And of course, Ball State University, it's a beautiful campus. There's a lot of things to do there. The Charles Brown Planetarium, the David Owsley Museum, things like that. So, really it depends on the guest and it depends on what their interests are. I can guarantee that whatever their interests are, that we have something in Muncie that we can take them and show them.
I want to switch gears a little bit. So to talk about city council, are there things about the job, whether it's being on city council or being president of city council, that you think people would be surprised to know is part of what the city council does?
Oh, great question. I think people generally know what the city council's roles and responsibilities are, but I don't know that everyone truly understands. The people that don't, the casual observer might not understand what the city council does, in terms of ordinances, resolutions, filing deadlines, kind of the business, the behind the scenes stuff that goes along with city council. But, primarily being the fiscal as well as legislative body for the city of Muncie, we are responsible for all of the obviously the finances, the money, the tax revenue that comes in. The council appropriates that, so in other terms, gives the city administration kind of a permission to spend that money, and also makes the local laws, the local ordinances that are enforced through city court. I guess I was surprised coming in. This is my first term on city council. I knew it was going to be work. I knew that this was not something you just show up for, for a couple hours a month. That this was something that if you wanted to do it right, that you had to dive in. So I wasn't really prepared for just how much work it was, and I think my colleagues on council would agree that it is a lot of work. And if you're doing it the right way and you're doing it the way that you should be doing it. So, I don't know that there's anything that anyone would be surprised about, but I can tell you I was taken off guard just a little bit with how much you can do and really, what all goes into it.
One of the things that surprised me when I was researching Muncie and considering whether to move here was how well studied Muncie is as a small town. Muncie has been studied again from the study of the Linds in the 20s and 30s to much more recent investigation. I listened to Kai Ryssdal on NPR's Marketplace, which had an hour-long special called Hard Times in Middletown about Muncie as a picture of the pain of the Great Recession in 2008. And Muncie has been seen as this kind of bellwether city, a symbol of industrialization and what some call post-industrialization in the Rust Belt. My question, though, and maybe the reason that this podcast exists, is to ask people what makes Muncie more than a type. What makes it unique? What makes it different from any other place? So what makes Muncie unique in your eyes?
It's the people, 100%. What has kept me here and the reason I have made my career here, the reason why I serve in the capacity in which I do, and the reason why I'm trying to serve in a greater capacity in the community really comes down to the passion that the people in Muncie have for this community. It's one of the, if not the most philanthropic community in the state of Indiana. When you look at not just the foundations locally, the Ball Foundation, George and Francis, the Community Foundation of Muncie and Delaware County, it's not just the foundations that are doing it, you look at the people that are not only giving of their own financial resources, but more importantly, giving of their own time to serve the people of this city. We have a lot of people in this city who struggle, unfortunately, which brings out the best, I think, in many people in this community, because people have a passion for helping others. That is what makes this place special. It's what makes it unique. There are other things, but I think that is what stands out to me and has always stood out to me. I've spent my career working in nonprofit organizations in the Muncie community, and the people that I come across, the people I've gotten to know and develop relationships with, it's simply amazing. The type of things that people are willing to do in service to others in our community. It's just absolutely beautiful.
You mentioned a little bit about what you have done in the community and what you're seeking to do. You're, of course, running for mayor. The election is this November. And let's talk about bipartisanship and what it means to you. You make it a big focus on your campaign website, which calls it your eagerness to work with everyone, no matter their political affiliation. And the Star Press reported at the beginning of this year that you have a three-peat, as they called it, as city council president when the majority of the council members are Republican. So what is this focus on bipartisanship about, and what exactly does that mean to you?
The only way we're going to move this community forward is if everyone is working together. I've always had an issue with, we live in a world where there are people, and we'll say there are Democrats that won't speak to Republicans because they're Republicans. There are Republicans that won't speak to Democrats just because they're Democrats. There are people in this community that only dislike me because I have a Democrat in front of my name without ever getting to know me, without ever getting to know my positions on issues that are important in this community. They just dislike me. I think that's silly. I really think that's foolish. And we, especially at the local level, we need to be making pragmatic decisions that are based on what's best for our entire community. There's not, and I think it was John F. Kennedy who said, let's not seek the Republican answer or the Democrat answer. Let's find the right answer. And that's something that I believe strongly in and have exhibited in my time on council. Look, I'll work with anybody who will work with me. I will work with anybody that has the community's best interests at heart rather than their own self-interest. We as elected officials, and it may sound cliche coming from, someone who's running for political office, but I truly believe that we are here to serve. And I serve my community, my district, which is the west side of Muncie. I take phone calls from Republicans and Democrats every day. People who need help. And I don't ask them, are you a Republican or are you a Democrat? That makes little difference to me. One of the things I'm most proud of in my time on council, and you're correct, this is my third year as president of a Republican-controlled city council, is that there are Republican members of this council that see that. There are Republican members of the council who have had the courage to vote against their own party's wishes, because believe me, there are people, Republican insiders, that are very upset that I am the president of a Republican-controlled council. There are those same Republicans that are very upset with my Republican colleagues who have voted for me to be president of the city council. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And at the local level, we're not talking about gun control. We're not talking about abortion issues. We're not talking about the things that divide the two ideologies at the national level or even at the state level. We don't need to be so partisan. I've seen it time and time again where, municipal boards, there's this desire once you get in there, if you're a Republican mayor or if, Democrat mayors in the past have been guilty of it as well, where we take out those from the other side of the aisle, and what we end up with is an echo chamber. What we end up with is we surround ourselves with yes people when we do that. I want dissent. I want people to disagree with me, and I want to have those conversations in a respectful way so that we can find the best solutions and the best path forward. So to alienate those that come from a different political party than you, to me, is just absolutely foolish.
Drawing back a little bit to think about Muncie as a whole, you mentioned the things that you found unique being the people, but what do you think is something that people might get wrong when they think about Muncie? What's a perception about Muncie that you hear it might even be common, but you think that is not quite the reality on the ground?
Yeah, well, and as someone from Muncie who went to Ball State University, I heard it a lot. I heard a lot of negative things about Muncie, and you still hear negative things about Muncie. And look, Muncie has its problems. You know, if you look at the statistics, if you look at the issues that we do have, these problems are not unique to Muncie. These are problems that every community faces. Really, it comes down to how those communities seek to address those issues. And I think we in the past have fell far short of addressing some of our most serious issues. But look, when you talk about generational poverty, when you talk about drug addiction, when you talk about mental health issues, these are not problems that are unique to Muncie. Muncie is not in a bubble that these problems are ours alone. These are problems that everybody face. So, when I hear negative things about Muncie, first thing I do is make sure to keep myself calm because, it's easy to throw stones. It's easy to say things about other communities that you have no stake in, that you have no, you've not spent a lot of time working to solve or working to help. It's easy to say negative things. But again, our problems are not unique. These are we've got great people here. Sure, we have people who struggle, but those struggles are not by choice. Those struggles are by environment. And, we have an opportunity in this community to help those people, to help start to move the needle in helping those individuals and helping those groups of folks that need our help. So, I don't want to go into the things that of course it's talking about the roads, it's talking about things like that. But, those are all true. We do have issues with infrastructure. We do have those problems. But when I hear people talk negatively about the folks in Muncie, it always drives me crazy because these are not problems that are just Muncie problems.
The last thing we do on each episode, every guest is asked these particular questions. It's a modified version of the Inside the Actor Studio question. So it's just going to be rapid fire. The first thing that comes to your mind, go for it. That's your answer. What is your favorite word?
My favorite word is probably hello.
What is your least favorite word?
Can't.
What word comes to your mind when you think of Muncie?
Community.
What turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
A good plan.
What turns you off?
No action, no plan, only words.
What excites you about Muncie?
Really, it's the passion that people have. We talked about it earlier. It's that passion that people have for this community and their willingness to roll their sleeves up and go to work.
What sound or noise do you love?
I've thought about this one. I think laughter.
I was going to think that you were going to say something about a Mustang engine.
Well, that is a close second, but I even thought about a good thunderstorm but I think overall I just love to hear people laugh.
What sound or noise do you hate?
My alarm clock. It doesn't everyone have that where you hear, like, if somebody else's ringtone sounds like your alarm clock, it just triggers you a little bit?
Yeah. I do wonder if it's a healthy thing that the first thing I say every morning is telling Alexa to be quiet and to stop.
Right.
What profession, other than your own, would you like to attempt?
I had this conversation with somebody over the weekend, and interestingly enough, I've always been curious and have always wanted to try being an over-the-road trucker, a long-haul trucker. I love to drive. I love seeing the country. I love road trips, and there's just something romantic and something very cool about long haul trucker. And yeah, I'd love to try that sometime.
What profession would you not like to do?
I'll tell you, the people that climb like the windmills that change the light bulbs at the top, the people that climb radio towers, things like that. No thanks. No thanks.
I've watched videos of those, and I think even through the phone, I get just secondhand. I don't know what the particular phobia is called, but the one that's fear of heights. That one is huge.
Yeah, the window washers in big cities, things that, nah, that's all right.
What do you hope to see in Muncie's future?
In Muncie's future, I'll tell you, I really hope to see that we as elected officials and others in the community of influence can put our politics aside and collaborate together without concern for our own egos, without concern for, as elected officials, our own re-election. I want to see us be selfless in service to this community, and that's my hope, is that we can get to the point where people can put the tribalism of politics aside and we can just simply work together for the betterment of all people in our community.
Our last question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Welcome, Jeff. We're glad you're here.
Thank you for joining me. This has been our conversation with Jeff Robinson, current president of the City Council. He is one of the people you might meet if you choose to meet the people in Muncie, Indiana.